morning and welcome to The Point. Today it is Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the GBN Production YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channels 7, 11 and 20. Good morning once again to the loyal listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. Thank you very much for joining us on another informative To The Point program. I have joining me virtually this morning are two ladies in the health sector. We have the Director of the hospital, Dr. Carol McIntosh, and Director of Medical Services, Dr. Tyhiesia Donald. Thank you, ladies, for joining us on the program this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, before we get into some of the matters or more of the matters that were discussed yesterday and some of the, the questions that we may have otherwise, I want to deal with one of the health issues that has been that has caused some concern internationally, that of monkeypox. So far, we have not had any reported cases in the Caribbean, but nevertheless, how prepared or what preparation has been going into our services here in Grenada in the event that it gets home or close to home?
Okay, so good morning, Blossom, and to our listening audience, good morning. So I'm just going to give you a little, update on, the monkeypox situation and what we're doing at the level of Ministry of Health. So first, let's just say that surveillance for any health issue is a continuous process. So surveillance happens all the time. And as part of the Ministry of Health's surveillance program, we have surveillance for fever and rash. Now, monkeypox falls into that category of illnesses that cause fever and rash. So our surveillance program, basically all our physicians, whether in private sector or public sector, any patient presenting with fever and rash, these persons are to be reported to the Ministry of Health, and then we go forward and do, tracing and collecting information and all of that. So this surveillance program is already in place, and this has been happening for many, many years. Now, added to that, with the whole COVID-19 pandemic, we've had to step up our surveillance program, to capture all the cases of COVID-19 coming into our borders as well as on island. And so this is already in place. And so the same would apply for monkeypox. So now we just have to educate our healthcare providers on what to look for, what are the symptoms, what are the signs, and so that we can step up this surveillance process. Because as I said, we already, as a Ministry of Health, have a program for surveillance for fever and rash. And monkeypox is just another one of those illnesses that cause that. So just to say a little bit about this monkeypox, because I know a lot of persons, been reading, some persons been hearing about it. So I'll just give a little bit of what it is and, what to look for. Now, monkeypox, it's, as it said, is a type of illness that creates pox, like these little lesions on the skin. It's a viral zoonosis. Now, when you say viral zoonosis, it means basically that it is a virus in humans, but it was transmitted from animals. So around, let's say, 1958, it was first seen in a lab in Denmark. And then in 1970, so many years ago, actually, the first case was reported from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So that is when the first case of monkeypox was actually reported. Now, it is endemic to West Africa and Central Africa. In other words, you expect to see cases of monkeypox in these areas. However, in recent times, we've noted that there has been cases reported in the USA, Canada, Australia, and in some of the European countries. So basically, 12 or more World Health Organization states have already reported cases of monkeypox. The last review I did, it was like you had a total of 92 confirmed cases, and you had about 28 suspected cases in these areas. So how does this illness present? Now, monkeypox, it gives you first, fever, headache, myalgias, meaning pain in the muscles, swollen lymph nodes or swollen glands, as we would say, weakness. So it gives you those type of symptoms, which is similar to all the other viruses that exist. So the symptoms are more or less similar. And then following that, for the first few days, you then break out in this rash. Now, the rash is like, as we say, a pox. And I know persons know what chickenpox look like, but monkeypox is similar to it, but it's very widespread. So it starts like a little heat on your skin. It makes a little water plug, and it comes up all over your body. And so it's similar to chickenpox and a lot of the other illnesses that give fever and rash. The incubation period, though, is it's wide. It's between 5 to 21 days. But most times, persons present with symptoms within 2 weeks of getting infected with the virus. So the thing about it is that it can affect any age group, anyone, it can affect persons across the board. So we all have to be on the lookout. So anyone presenting with, fever and rash, that we basically cannot confirm that it's a chickenpox or any of the other common illnesses that we know, we have to suspect monkeypox. Now, how do you confirm it? Because it's similar, as I said, to other fever and rash illnesses. It's confirmed through same PCR testing. So PCR testing will confirm whether you have it or not. However, right now we're not able to do testing for that on island, and even our public health lab in the Caribbean, they're now having discussions regarding, preparations to start testing for monkeypox, because of course it's becoming a concern. We know there's a lot of travel, especially now in Grenada. We have, all the restrictions have been lifted. A lot of persons coming home. Carnival is coming up. A lot of activities. So a lot of persons will be traveling back and forth. And if we have cases of monkeypox in places like Canada, USA, which are places that we get a lot of tourists from these areas, and a lot of persons living in the diaspora come home back and forth. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be on the lookout for this virus, because we are at risk because it is in one of the countries that we have a lot of our tourists from. So that's just a little synopsis of monkeypox. But as I said, in terms of surveillance, both in our ports and on island, we already have in place our surveillance for fever and rash. So all cases of fever and rash are reported to the Ministry of Health. And then, of course, you give information in terms of, when did it start, who else is around, a whole epi breakdown of the person and their course of illness. And through that means now we're able to investigate the cases and go further and see if we need to send them out for testing. So that system is already in place. So we just need now to ensure that all of our healthcare providers are educated on the signs and symptoms of this illness so that we can be vigilant and look out for persons who may possibly have this virus.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but how is it spread from human to human? Is it easily transmissible? And in the event that we do get a case, do we have to isolate? What should take place there?
Right. So yes, it's transmitted via person-to-person direct contact. So through the skin lesions. Remember, I spoke about the skin lesions that are like little water plugs on your skin. So you can get it from these lesions, especially if the water plugs burst and that liquid, if it's in contact with someone else, they can get it through that means. They can also get it through respiratory droplets. So we back to basically the same measures as with the COVID-19 virus, where, you have to protect yourself against the droplets. You have to practice good hand hygiene. And for any person who has skin lesions, these pox-like lesions with, liquid within them, water plugs, as we would say, they have to be careful because, for example, if you have lesions of monkeypox, you go lay on a bed and some of these lesions burst. And that liquid stays in your bed sheet. And then someone who's healthy now come and lay on that same bed, they can get it through the contact with the fluids. All right. So it is spread direct, person to person, and of course through respiratory droplets. So the same precautions apply. Now, the course of the illness is between 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So basically between 2 weeks to 1 month. And of course, if you are positive for this, again, yes, you would have to isolate yourself to minimize, the spread of the infection.
Treatments, are there special treatments, or are we treating the symptoms like we did with COVID?
Right. So that's a very good question, Blossom. So treatment for this, because of course it's a virus, is symptomatic treatment. Of course, There was some studies done, and they came up with a treatment for it just in recently, 2019, and also a vaccine. But this is not readily available. So the general treatment for it, because it's a viral illness, is symptomatic treatment. So you treat the symptoms. So, for example, for the pox, you can use things like, your calamine lotion, to help dry up the lesions. For the fever and the, aches and all of that, you use your pain medication. So things like paracetamol, acetaminophen, these type of things you use. And of course, if there's a lot of weakness and so, making sure you stay hydrated, and basically it's treated similarly to that of all the other viruses. And that's the curious thing about these viruses. They all more or less present similarly. So it's hard to tell one from the next, except you actually do a test. And, for that reason, the testing is important in order for us to be able to identify and confirm that, in fact, we have these, this type of illness or infection on island or in any of our islands.
And while we're on it as well, COVID-19, I've been following the latest dashboards. I felt a little better when I saw the latest dashboard show less than 1,000 active cases Monday night. But we still have new cases, some in the triple figures as well. Any signs that, or can this be termed I think this would maybe our third wave, or?
Well, yes, our third real wave, so to speak. Yes. And yes, so that's good news, Blossom, because what we're seeing is that we're now seeing a downward trend in terms of the number of cases that we have. So we're now out of the thousands, we're in the hundreds right now, and the cases have been going down. So we continue to have cases, but the amount of cases, or in other words, our positivity rate has been decreasing. So what is going to happen is over the next few weeks, we expect to have a downward trend. Of course, remember the thing about COVID-19 is that based on our activities, based on our lifestyle, we can have spikes. And COVID, again, is right now, as I always, as I say now, I tell Dr. McIntosh and I speak about that all the time. We said that right now, it's all about learning to live with COVID-19, because COVID is going to be here for quite some time, and it's going to become just like one of any other viruses. So now we have to think about monkeypox, chickenpox, COVID-19, all of these viruses cause similar symptoms. And we have to learn how to live with them. So how do we deal with spikes? How do we avoid spikes? It's about your hand hygiene, your respiratory etiquette, being in crowds. And, right now we have a lot of events. Everybody's happy to be out. I mean, I'm happy to be out as well because, we've been, locked up for, about 2 years, and no persons want to go out some more. But we always have to be mindful that the person next to me, so you're right next to me, you could very well have COVID and I don't know. So how do we try to manage that is by maintaining the etiquette. If you go out, you're in groups, you don't sit face to face. If I'm sitting here, then you sit on the other side so that we're not directly in contact with each other. So that way, even if I have it and I'm speaking away, you won't get it directly from me because you're at the side and not right in front of me. So we still have to maintain, that whole idea of the distancing. Even within a crowd, you try to, if you are behind someone, that person's back should be to you. So we have to keep that in mind because, of course, the face-to-face, of course, the lack of social distancing, it will cause us to have cases coming in and out. I mean, we expect to have cases coming over the next few months, next few years, but we expect us to get to that stage where it's going to be minimal and it wouldn't cause a spike per se, because what has happened is that because of these waves and through vaccination, which of course, that's one of our little sore areas in that we still just at a mere 33.9% of our population vaccinated. We continue to fight, like Dr. McIntosh is a very big advocate for this whole vaccination process. I am. All of us, we've been trying to promote it, but we're still very slow in terms of our uptake. However, besides the vaccination, we also have, so many persons within the country getting COVID-19 that we are now immunized. So it's kind of helping us in a way to be able to face the virus, in a good way because our bodies are already exposed to it and have created antibodies and so to fight against it. But COVID-19, as I said, we're now in the 800s. Our vaccination rates continues to be low. We still advocate for, good hand hygiene, good respiratory etiquette, and of course, making sure that persons remember that the person next to you can have COVID, because I know a lot of us, we've kind of relaxed, we've kind of let down our guard a little bit, but we have to be mindful that it's still here, it's still around. And, the person next to you can be positive and be asymptomatic, and you don't have a clue. So let us be mindful of that. And of course, be vigilant for persons you see persons, your friends, or anyone with any skin lesions. You have to be aware of that as well, because, of course, we have to be on the lookout for cases of monkeypox.
All right, now let's talk about some of the things going on at the General Hospital. I was heartened the other day to see some of the new equipment and new machinery that we now have set up at the hospital. I know we can facilitate, I think it's CT scans now. Our dialysis center, I believe, is up and running. What are some of the latest that has been happening at the General Hospital that can better serve our citizens?
So I'll put this over to Dr. McIntosh.
And good morning, Blossom. Good morning, Dr. Donald.
Good morning, Dr.
It is always a pleasure, and this is great to be able to talk about this as well. I do apologize up front because I probably will be leaving early, and I'm just going to move a little fast so allow for people to be able to ask their questions. But you're right, there's a lot that's going on at the hospital. And people would say, but we've been hearing this, and we've been hearing this, and we've been hearing this, and what's going on? I'm just going to give a brief synopsis, understanding that we talk about it and that it takes some time for it to come in. With COVID, that slowed a lot of things down in the sense of deliveries, manufacturing, even containers being available. So keep that in mind as we go through. So yes, we can say that we have our CT scanner, which is a 128 slice GE Evo Revolution CT scanner. And I describe it as such because this is one of 3 in the Eastern Caribbean. So we are fortunate to have it donated by the Maria Holden Memorial Trust. They donated it to us after we put a rigorous application in 2019. It took about a year for us to get it because it had to be manufactured by GE and then it had to be shipped across, and GE had to approve where it was going to stay because we had to create the room for it. And that was under construction. And so it got here in 2020 of November. And that time period, we continued with the construction, putting in the AC. And I would say, for example, we had 10,000 BTU, a 10,000 BTU. Your home AC is maybe like 20,000 2,000. So you can imagine a 10,000 BTU is huge. That was for the entire floor. For the CT scanner room alone, it needed its own 10,000 BTU. So that was something that needed to be purchased and then installed before the CT scanner can be put in. All of that process went on, and then the CT scanner was installed or moved in November of 2021. Now, it was held in a place that GE has said needs to be air conditioning, needs to be secure. All of that was done. Once it was moved, that was a major thing. We give the Marshall brothers thank you for the whole rigging and the process of it. But once it moved in, then the installation project took place. We had Global Medical send down the engineers to start the installation. Problems started to arise. It wasn't working as it should be working. And people started to query, well, why is it not working? This is a new machine that just came out of the box. What's going on? And it was not about the new machine. It was about the AC. And the layout that was initially given to us by GE was for the CT scanner to sit straight. But when it went on a slant, because of the spacing and what GE, when they reviewed it again, the AC was not situated to cool it. So that meant that we had to change the AC system, and that allowed for the different parts that were being installed to be able to reach the correct level and be certified. We reached that process about 2 weeks ago, and we're very thankful for that. And so now the CT scanner with its power surge, which is a huge power of batteries to keep it going in the case of disaster when the electricity goes down, is now in place. Now we need to prepare and train. I said it's a 128 slice. We have 2 prior CT scans on the island, which are 64 slice. And that tells you the amount of cuts that it would take during a minute. So it takes a lot of cuts to make it as clear as possible, the imaging. We now have to train a radiographer, the person who's going to put the patient on the site and start to do the film, and also help to upgrade our biomed to have them understand how do they manage or oversee or be the first responders when something happens with the CT scanner. And then also working with our radiologists. Dr. Fleury is in heaven because this is a new, beautiful imaging, as he would say, that is in place. And that can it just changes the game for us here in Grenada in the sense of our treatment. But this was the CT scanner. The training process took place. And what was nice, it allowed for us to actually do CT scans on persons. That's how they did the training. It's not complete. This was the first 4 days in-house. In another 4 weeks, we're doing another in-house and online. And these are all showing all the services because there are so many services that come with the CT scanner that the persons need to be trained on. Once that is completed and we are ready to say that a radiographer is ready, a radiologist says, yes, he's ready, our next point is having the physicist come in to be able to measure the radiation scatter and to make sure that the room is safe for the patient and the staff, making sure that all within the radiology, the imaging equipment is safe. And so that's still a process. Which you would say, well, why is it taking so long? Well, it is taking so long to allow for us to have the CT scan for long. Because once you put it in and it's sustainable and it's working well and we know that it's safe, and we have the preventative care and maintenance schedule in place, we have the service contract in place to maintain it, well, then it's going to be here 15, 20 years. And that's what we want. That's what we need. We're not going to be able to say, go with the next CT scan in another 5 years. No, this is one that's here to stay and is a game changer. And the fact that it's here makes it accessible to everyone. When we were putting the process together of determining for the Maria Holder Memorial Trust, it was determined at that time, and that was in 2019 before COVID, that 400 people were not able to get a CT scan for a wide variety of reasons, whether it's because of cost or because of the inability to be able to move to the site to get a CT scan or the timeliness of it. So this is something, the fact that we have it on site is 24/7, it is available, it's a game changer. So that's one that we're very glad. I heard you say CT scanners. You may be talking into existence that we're going to get another, and I don't know, you may see something, but we would appreciate that in the sense of the imaging. We also have the digital XR 6000 that's in place, which is another sense of a game changer, but it brings up, it finesses our imaging services. And that's part of our imaging services that's here at the hospital. Soon, we will also have a new imaging machine, digital, at Princess Alice Hospital. And as you know, at Princess Royal, thank God, in Carriacou, they have their X-ray machines so that we'll be able to say, do the imaging and not have to travel into Grenada and then go back. So that's some of the things that's going on with the imaging. And of course, we're making sure that our people, we need more people, but our people are trained to be able to do this and provide this service. And yes, dialysis. Whew. Dialysis has been, Donna has said it. She says, I eat, sleep, and dream dialysis. And I'm like, yeah. It is now in place for us, and we're able to provide not just the dialysis, but to provide nephrology services to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, which is a joy. It's taking a time, again, to make sure that it's sustainable, because we got in the machines, 5 dialysis units, and then we got the portable water units to go with that to allow for it to be used. In that process, we found out a lot about water supply and water pressure and pipes, found out quite a bit. And as Director of Hospital Services, being an OBGYN, I now feel like I'm a contractor. However, we worked with NOASA on that, and we had to do additional things because we realized that the water pressure, as it was coming in, because it was feeding the entire Phase 2 building, was not enough pressure specifically for dialysis. And dialysis, we use at least 5 gallons per minute for at least for one person being dialyzed. So you can imagine the amount of water that's needed. So they worked with us very well, and we appreciate them. And we worked with Dr. Lisa Radix, a daughter of our soil, who is I would say, nephrologist extraordinaire in the sense of helping us to understand how do we sustain, how do we make the dialysis work. And we were able to then realize that we had to take our water directly from the main, directly to dialysis. The dialysis has its own set of water, and that's where we're laying the pipes down, and then also have storage and the backup in case anything may happen and this water system goes down. And so 2 water storage tanks would also be put into place behind the dialysis center. And to maintain that, because so it won't be stagnant water that's sitting, so it's constantly moving. All of this is being done. And as that's being done, it takes time. So even though we had our training with our biomed and our staff on the use of dialysis and the RO and the maintenance, et cetera, we now had to prepare it so that it will be sustainable. And that's the process that's going on now. The storage tanks are to come. However, our plumber, who's working with our contractor, has put in the final connection, or is putting in the final connection of the main to our ROs so that it can allow for water to start. And shortly, once we determine that everything is fine, that everything is flowing well, the pressure is good, then we can start talking about providing the services. So that's for dialysis as well. And again, it's a game changer. It's an addition. It helps. And there's more to it than just the fact of hemodialysis. It is something to help our people managing end-stage renal disease. Then we go into the infrastructure, and I'm only going to go a bit. I mean, we do know we have our hospital that's in place. It's 100 years old. It has been falling apart. Little places go. Doors are down. Mold is here. This is breaking. Yeah, that's true. And it's our one hospital. And we're in a third world country. And we don't have a lot of resources. But despite that, we're providing the service. As I sit and listen, and we talk about monkeypox, and we talk about our surveillance, and we talk about all that's going on, that is something to be said for Little Grenada, that we have a healthcare system, a healthcare service that's available to help to keep our people safe and to keep them healthy and to help to decrease the risk of death. That is something to be said. However, we do not negate the fact that if you have a beautiful doors, you have clean walls, you have clean floors, you have something bright to see, that also adds in how you feel. So we're working on that, and we're very happy. I mean, I will hit on social media that they're running around talking about how all these doors are broken on the front of all the wards, and look at this, and how can people work with that? Well, doors don't take care of patients. However, we have changed the doors. We were fortunate to work with M&M and our procurement and our deputy to put together the doors and start to put in new doors and new shutters and new painting and doing all that, despite our limited resources, with just human resources, because we don't have a lot of people, and that's to work on hospital services across and community. But we're doing that along with trying to make sure that people recognize still come in, because once you get past that door, you're coming in to receive service from our doctors and our nurses. Once you get past that, you will see it. Yes, there's a lot that needs to be done. Yes, there's a lot that can be criticized and all, but there's a lot that's being done. And let us talk about and recognize the good that has been going on. And I want to just say, last but not least, is that we're working with St. George's University. Our drivers and orderlies, it just gives me great joy, have started the process of doing the emergency medical responders course. They've already started the course. First 10 of them are doing that, and we have about 45. And SGU has committed to provide this full course free of charge with all the services to them across, and we'll have further training that goes on. And once they finish the 5-day course, which is intense, 8 to 4, they will be certified in the use of the AED, which is automatic electronic defibrillator that you will be able to use. They'll be basically trained in basic life support, CPR for adults and children, as well as first aid. And this will give them to strengthen them as to be part of our emergency responders, part of the whole team of a driver, orderly, and nurse. Strengthen them to be able to, when they go out, to be able to provide a service immediately before hospital care. And so we are very excited about that. Our drivers and orderlies are very excited, and then pushing. They have their homework, they have their reading to do. And this is, again, something where we help to support and help to prove and help to progress our staff. And we're very happy for that and recognize that. And recognize our staff, it's hard. It is very hard. The way they have to work, what they have to do with the little resources that we have, they're doing it. they're doing their best. I mean, we could touch about like customer service. Yes, people should treat people better, talk to people better, address people. Most of the time we do, some of the times we don't. Answer the phone correctly, listen, have empathy. That's something it's hard to teach. It's hard to teach because that is something that really should come with us as being up to our fellow brother and sister. You know, we are our brother's keeper. But it's something that we are pushing as much as possible, as well as the fact of pushing for all the different services that we're providing. And, you know, we're very glad we have the supporters, SGU, St. Augustine's, but even within, we have seen SGU students who are raising money to pay for 10 CT scans when they come on board. So everyone is working towards what our goal, the Ministry of Health, providing the best of care, the best and sustainable health care to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And it is just something, it makes your heart full to see that all that we're doing and continue to do despite COVID, despite the illnesses, despite all that's going on, knowing we have a lot more to do, but everybody's willing and able.
Dr. McIntosh, I'm glad to hear you speak about the training that the people have, our officials have gotten in terms of the CT scan. That has always been a concern of mine. We get a lot of equipment, not just in the health sector, but we get equipment that people don't know how to use, as well as maintenance. How are we ensuring that we can maintain these machinery at home, instead of having to wait until maybe somebody can come in from abroad or something or the other? How are we working with maintenance as well?
So there's two parts. So there's maintenance of machines, and then there's maintenance of the hospital. So there's two different teams. Maintenance of biomedical is a biomedical department, and that's going to be the engineers and biomedical technicians who work with the equipment. We have a small team that has to manage hospital and community services. And each time a new piece of equipment comes in, the vendor brings in their engineer to instruct and install, and our biomed team comes along and watches and walks with them. Now, our biomed team have to do every single thing. So they're, in a sense, the first responders. They learn what to look at, or what to be able to say, and to speak the language back to the company. So we always have to go back to the company. We always are going to need to have someone come in. That is something that is a given. We don't have a CT scanner engineer. GE will provide service, and our Maria Holden Memorial Trust, within their donor agreement, said we must have 5 years of service afterwards to maintain it. And within that service contract, it is the vendor that sends their people in. They know what is going to be needed. It's like if you get a Suzuki, or if you get a Toyota, or if you get a Lexus, you got to go to the Lexus dealer. They're going to say, no, you can't be going nowhere else. You can't go to the next person and then come back to us and say, you come to us. Now, you may go to your local mechanic because you hear a noise, but then you still have to come back to them. And so that's something where maintenance and service within our biomed, they're the first responders, but the actual persons that are providing the equipment that's needed to be changed. It's like with a car, we have a tune-up. Regardless of whether your car is good, you must have a tune-up. You must have oil change. So you must change the parts, even though this is working well. That's part of the service contract. That's the maintenance for it. So that's what our larger equipment and our smaller. Biomed is trained in across the board as best they can. We're adding in more, and we need more biomed. We have 1 engineer and 1 senior biomed technician, and then 3 additional biomed technicians. We need more, because we have the CT scan, the dialysis, and each thing has its own way. And so you have to be trained or understand that. And they're assigning 1 person to work with the vendor, but we need more people. And it is still a necessity that people come from overseas to come in. We have Global Medical, which is our base for our engineers that are trained in GE equipment. They must come in. So that's something that's not to be gone. Then we also have maintenance, which is our plumbers, our electricians, et cetera, who help to work on the working and maintaining the hospital. Again, it's hospital services. We have 4 hospitals, 1 nursing home, 33 plus health centers that they have to go in to check on the plumbing to make sure it's maintained. Our plumber is going to have to help with dialysis. If something goes on with the pipes, our plumber has to be aware of that. In addition to be aware of just the general plumbing system. In addition, if the sewage line goes down, In addition, if there's a water main break. So you're seeing that they have to do that. Plus our electricians, the generators are working, and they have to work with Ministry of OIID infrastructure, who send out their generator people to check. So as you ask about that, it is not one up. It's not one person. It is not something where we're saying we don't have it on the island. I come in from the States. We can just go right next door and get it. There's a whole bunch. We don't have a next door to get it. And so it is something, we need more HR, we need more people, but the people are trying their best in maintaining. They get the training from the vendors and then to be able to help to assist, especially with our lab equipment as well. That's necessary.
Dr. Mack, I know you have to run in a while, so I'm just going to, talk to you before you have to run out in about 5 minutes or so. The issue of services at the General Hospital has always been a discussion island-wide. And as the person that heads the hospital, the running of the hospital, making sure everything is okay, I want to hear from you your thoughts on some of the complaints that we've been hearing about, seeing about in relation to our services, availability of whether it be tests or medication or beds. What efforts are being made to see that we improve on the services provided at the General Hospital or Princess Alice and Princess Royal.
And Mount Gay Psychiatric Hospital and the Richmond Nursing Home. Those are the 5. First, before I start, I just want to say in general, we apologize. Apologize for those who have had a bad experience, who have called in and requesting a service, and the person's like, what? We don't have it by. Doesn't ask. I apologize for when you come and you're saying, you come in perhaps into the A&E and you're sitting and you're waiting and no one has come to you. Apologize for the fact that you get onto the floor and you're like, well, there's no toilet paper. What's the bed sheets? What is this? And I call for the nurse and the nurse doesn't come. Or my lunch or my breakfast comes 2 hours later. Apologize as well, even at Mount Gay, where we now need to understand these are our most vulnerable who we need to protect. These are our most vulnerable who do not get the recognition. Who, if you go up there, they're in an institution that is made for 80 patients. And right now we have 122 patients. Standard overcrowding and needing special beds because those with mental health issues, there are different varying degrees and may very well be found sleeping on the ground. And I will say it, yes. What we have to do first is apologize and then continue to see what can we continue to do. And second is to recognize it and not try to say, oh, no, it's not really happening. Oh, no, I didn't see it. It does because it affects us, because it is us. I mean, it's not like I'm director of hospital service. Yes, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm coming from there. My parents' family are from Carriacou. So when it affects one, it affects us as well. It affects the staff as well. And we do have to do many things. One is where we're working within our Ministry of Health to raise the funds and to make sure to look at the various grants to bring in the equipment. Hospital beds have been something, since I've been here, since October 2018, have been an issue. Hospital beds. It's not one time you get a hospital bed. That hospital bed is going to go in 2 to 3 years and needs replacement. And you need to have it with the rails. And yes, we get donations, but sometimes we get 110 voltage electric beds we can't use because our hospital is 220 based and it's old and it really doesn't have the transformers. So we can't use that. And if we get beds that don't have rails, well, it's not really working for us. And we have where this is as it was when about many years ago, we need to bring it up to standard. This is what we're working on. We had the same thing within Mount Gay is now the baby of trying to get it up and burning because the patients cannot complain. We have to deal with them. Nursing home, it's something. We're thankful to PAHO doing the smart hospital. The Richmond nursing home hasn't changed patients. Patients are there long term, but it's so much brighter. It's purple. It has changed, and that has helped in just in the movement and the staff. And how we're managing with customer service and the complaints. One is definitely, you can come to myself and Dr. Donald. You will hear it, but we hear it all the time. We address it. And one of the things is first to listen. If we can help immediately. Third is to apologize and really say, yes, you're correct. I hear you, and empathize, and then see what we can do next. Customer service. It is a big thing. Bedside manner cannot be taught. It can be learned. We say that doesn't make sense, but it does. We can't teach you how to be, but we can understand empathy. And so we're doing the workshops, but sometimes it has to be done over and over and over again. And recognize we're going to hear about that one person who didn't get it right. But then there are the 10 who do stop and say, how do I help? You know, we have our security, we have our PBX, that when they answer, they're like, how can I help? What can I do? I may not understand all this stuff, but I'm going to try to get you to someone. We have those in the kitchen that are saying, well, I'm going to try to make the best. And you're going to have people who are not going to do it. We're all human. What do? We continue with the training. We acknowledge the fact that there's criticism. We work on trying to make that change. But we also ask and say, work with us and recognize that those when we do well, when we are saving the person, when we are helping, when the doctors or nurses, despite what they have, are still providing the care and still come in and do not say, well, I'm not going to come in, who work the lower hours, who will get up and move. Let's recognize them. Let us recognize the PBX, the laundry, the people that do go above and beyond despite what goes on. Let us recognize them as well. But as a director of hospital services, yes, I do apologize for the times when you have the bad things. And I'm glad when there's something good. And we do hear it. We don't hear them in the news. It's not in social media. But a person will come in and say, you know, despite the fact there wasn't good sheets, there was a nurse that was on the floor that my mother got the best of care. I understand that. My father was here in the ICU and died in the hospital. Now, I could easily have taken him into New York Hospital. I have all of that context, but he was here with me. And the care and the understanding and what I saw, I said, I'm glad that he died here in my arms than overseas. And that is something that we want to say, is that I am able to bring my family member in here. This and be able to hope that they would get the best of care. We do need work. We do have people that were like, oh, why do you say it like that? Why can't you be nice? But we have people that go above and beyond, that are pushing and training and trying to provide the best of care. So I first and foremost just want to say I apologize for the worst that has happened. And I ask for the forgiveness and the understanding and the patience understanding that we're trying to change it.
There's a question on the WhatsApp, Dr. McIntosh. Do you know who comes first, our employees? Modern thinking says customers no longer comes first, but second. Unless staff feel respected and valued and fairly treated, they would never deliver the level of service we expect them to deliver to their customers, clients, patients, etc. Training without a sense of appreciation won't cut it. So this one speaks about appreciation for employees at the hospital.
And I fully agree. And we have done that. We continue each year, and we're saying that we want to have a more often employee appreciation. We have it with the doctors that have the employee appreciation. Of course, the Nurses International had that, where they actually address them and talk to them. And then we did it with our employees who are not doctors, not nurses, our ancillary and auxiliary staff. I agree with that. We need to recognize our employees and provide the training. We can't just say, come in and do. We can't tell a housekeeper, okay, come in and clean. No, you're infection prevention and control. So we need to train. It is our responsibility as managers. So if something goes on with our employees, it's not to blame the employee, it's us. Because if I didn't provide you the best of resources, if I didn't provide you with the best of training, and if I didn't make sure that you understood it, then how can I sit there and expect that you're going to do the best? And then come back and say, thank you. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not write checks, I do not sign checks, I do not give out income. I don't have anything to do with that. I cannot control that. If I could, wow, sure. I would say that you need to be paid twice as much, but we don't have it. We don't have it. And so how do we recognize? We recognize with other ways. with the training, with appreciation and doing more and more appreciation. We had a full day for our staff at Tyhiesia or BBC Beach, which was beautiful. They brought the children, they sat, and they just had a chance to just breathe. That's what we can do, and to do more, and to provide the training, and to hear them, hear the grievance. My deputy will sit and hear the grievance. But we also have to recognize that when you come into hospital services, no matter what you are working and saying, first, do no harm. It is rough. Hospital care services is not like any other service in the world. Sometimes we have to go above and beyond, and it's not recognized. Sometimes we're going to be knocked down. Sometimes we're going to be like, oh gosh, which we were, because when there was the lockdown and everybody was at home, our staff came out every single day and may not have been recognized. So I understand that. It's not putting, who do we put first? I am going to say it again, our patients, regardless. I'm not going to change that. It is patient-centered care. So I will not compromise and say, oh yes, our employees are first. No, it's our patients. And we are going to do our best to provide for our patients because that is why we came into this service. That is what we're giving. And yes, as we do that, we as managers need to make sure, how do we recognize our employees? How do we support them? How do we say thank you? But our first and foremost is our patient.
So thank you very much, Doc. I know I need to let you run off. We're going to take a quick break and get situated. And when we come back, we have just about 5 or so minutes with Dr. Donald and see how many questions we can facilitate during that time. You're watching To The Point. Let's take a quick break. Thank you again, Dr. McIntosh. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be right back with more from Dr. Donald. Stay with us.
The most anticipated family fun-filled event on the GBN calendar is back. The Maggie King of the Grill. Join us on June 4th at Montrouge. Be part of the culinary masterpiece as the best grillers on island compete for the coveted title of the Maggie King of the Grill. Think you have what it takes? Be part of the action. June 4th. Book your spot. If not, step away from the grill if you can't handle the heat. Maggie King of the Grill is sponsored by Maggie, Matuk's Barbecue Sauce, Rubis, Dasani Water, Calico Shopping Center, Duty Free Caribbean, and Siesta Hotel.
Mr. mentioned the wing kai, then you have things like manumos, roast combat, We have the low powder.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
Stop the spread of germs that can make you and others sick. Cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. If you don't have a tissue, use your elbow. Wash hands often, especially after coughing or sneezing into a tissue.
Welcome back to The Point. We want to say thank you once again to the director of the hospital, the General Hospital, Dr. Carol McIntosh. But with us still is the Director of Medical Services, Dr. Tyhiesia Donald. We have just about 5 minutes to facilitate you viewers and listeners who may have comments or questions for Dr. Donald. 435-2041, that's the landline number. That's also the WhatsApp number. Please, no calls on the WhatsApp. And you can continue to post your comments on Facebook and YouTube. Let's go to our first caller. And in the interest of time, if you can please keep our calls to 1 minute or less so we can facilitate as many as we possibly. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Blossom.
Morning.
I want to ask Dr. McIntosh, if she remember over 2 years ago when she did some tests at the Grandance medical.
Caller, sorry, Dr. McIntosh has left. She has another appointment at 10.
Yeah, well, let me say this. Over 3 years ago, she did some tests herself on women at the Grandance Medical. I'm sorry, she left at the Grandance Medical Station. I was one of the patients. And up to now, no results. I contacted her and many times until one time her secretary says to me, she doesn't have the result in a very rude manner. That means the doctor doesn't have the result. And what she could advise me to do, to go to the private and do the test. She also gives me a form of what the test was like. And I went to price it at the private, was $390. Now, I didn't do it here, but when I went abroad, I did it. However, with all what Dr. McIntosh said, and apologizing, those things are happening in Grenada here, not 5, not 10 years. It's not acceptable. And we talk about the CT scan. How many years, 4, 5 years, it received here. Look at if the private people have a CT scan. They're getting it done. They're getting it going. Resources, I don't think all about resources, Miss Blossom. I think it's a caring.
Okay.
Son, one little bit. For instance, when you go to the hospital there and you have to wait out there, just simple as that. The place is filthy. The day is open. If the rain is coming, everything you're getting wet. I mean, come on.
Okay. Thank you very much,
You're very
caller.
welcome.
Thank you. Any comments, Dr. Donald? Although it's more to Dr. McIntosh she was looking for.
No comments.
Okay. Let me go to WhatsApp in the meantime. Somebody on WhatsApp says, I want to take my hats off to the staff of the female surgical ward. God bless them. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Compliment. All right, back to the landline while I scroll through social media. Morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, Blossom. How are you?
I'm good.
I just wanted to ask if Dr. McIntosh talk about trainings. I want to find out if the trainings, all of them is from Grenada. And I would like to know, these days we're talking about experience and what, so I would like she to share the people that are training how much she has experience there, because remember, it's in our head, this thing is. So I would like to hear how much she has experience they have and if all the training is from Grenada.
Thank you very much, caller. Dr. Donald?
Yes. So the persons who are training are persons with over 10 years of experience. So we have our radiologist or radiographer. These are persons who have actually been in the business of CT scans and X-ray many years ago, even in other facilities on island working. So these are persons with over 10 years experience. I mean, put together maybe over 20 years of experience in both CT scan, in terms of the actual technical parts of it, in terms of doing the actual scan, and then you have, of course, in terms of reading the images. So yes, the persons, as I said, who were receiving the training are persons who actually have been doing CT scans. Did CT scans before, but they were getting trained in this new equipment, and so they do have quite a number of years' experience.
Somebody on Facebook asks, who pays for all the trainings? You cannot train people without education. Grenadians just have some bad attitude.
So in terms of the training, part of the whole project of setting up a CT scan, training is included in that package. So of course, when you go through the process of purchasing, and this CT scan was a donation, part of the package is for installation, training of the personnel on island to do the scans. So it's included in that whole cost. How much it costs, I can't say, because as I said, it was a donation and it was all included in that package.
right, so somebody still on Facebook asks, do they do inspection every year at the General Hospital, and why not? This is a hospital, the building supposed to be in good order. Inspections at the General Hospital. Often
yes, so inspections are done at the General Hospital. We are actually working together to try and have it in a more, let's say, systematic way. But yes, inspections are done, and as a result of the inspections, that's why we have actually started to do some changes in terms of infrastructure. Dr. McIntosh spoke about changing the doors, and they've started to do some repairs in stages because, of course, we still have to use the building. So we're doing some, in a phased approach, we're doing some maintenance. So yes, inspection is done.
And the last caller we can facilitate this morning. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. I just want to direct this call to Dr. Donald. Good morning, Dr. Donald. What I want to find out, right? You talk about the symptoms of the monkeypox, right? And that same symptoms, when people have, there's another one called, it comes out like that. I forget the name at the moment. It comes out like a burn, like the same kind of thing, impetigo. So is there, could you clarify it a bit? Because impetigo has that same thing. I've seen it in school when I was a teacher. Impetigo comes out like this bump, and then it comes out like a burn. So I don't know. Is it the kind of symptoms we have to look for?
Thank you, caller.
Yes. So the difference with the impetigo and monkeypox is that impetigo is actually caused by a bacteria versus the monkeypox, which is caused by a virus. However, they both give similar symptoms in that they both give the fever, feeling unwell, followed by, the breakout with the rash. The thing about the impetigo, sometimes you don't even have a fever. You start off with a lesion, it looks burn-like, whereas the monkeypox actually look like pox. So you would actually see like little water plugs all over the body, whereas the impetigo starts off as water plugs, but it ends up looking like burns. So the lesions are similar, and hence the only way to be able to confirm which one of them it is through testing. With the impetigo, you could just do a simple swab of the lesion and get it tested, whereas the monkeypox, in order to get the confirmation, you'd have to do like PCR testing with a swab of the lesions. So even the testing is different, but the lesions are similar. But impetigo is bacterial, monkeypox is viral. Impetigo has this burn-like aspect once the lesions burst, and then the monkeypox has, the little water plugs all over the body. So they're similar, but of course, the only way to be able to differentiate one from the other, apart from the type of lesions and so, would be to actually have it tested. And once the test is done, you'll be able to confirm. But they do look a bit different.
All right. Final thoughts, Dr. Donald, as we wrap the program.
So I'd just like to say that, at the level of hospital services, there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, we've been doing work in stages. We've been trying to, do some upgrading in terms of our equipment, trying to do some maintenance in our buildings, and also working on our customer service. Of course, with all of this, we have to work together with the public. We are always happy to work together with the public to try and address all the problems related to healthcare, because healthcare really is an area that we working toward together to improve, and because we want ultimately to give you the best possible service. And I know we've had many challenges, but we're slowly working baby steps, as I would say, to try and improve the care that we offer. And of course, we like the support of the public in this regard. Also to say that, with all these new services, CT scan, dialysis, and so, it's important too for the members of the public. We want you to take ownership of your health as well, because of course, a lot of the times when you get to that stage is because it's sometimes, especially with dialysis, it's because you're at end-stage kidney disease. And so we want persons to own your health, let us do and practice healthy living, make sure we have adequate hydration, proper diet, exercise, enough rest, and ensure that persons the persons with underlying chronic illnesses, that they should comply with their medication, continue with their follow-up, because of course if you do adequate follow-up and adequate compliance with your meds, the chances of you ending up in these situations where you need, for example, dialysis is very, very low. So it's important that we all try to work towards healthy living and compliance with our treatment protocols and with our follow-up schedules, so that way if we all take ownership, do our annual checks, and we start from now in years to come, we would have a healthier population. So let us all work together to take ownership of our health. And also, we on the end of hospital services are willing and happy to work together with you, the public, to ensure that we improve our health services, because we do acknowledge that we have challenges and we want to improve the services that we provide to you. So thank you and have a good week.
Thank you very much, Dr. Donald, and enjoy the rest of your week as well.
Thank you.
That was the Director of Medical Services, Dr. Tyhiesia Donald. We thank her and also thank Dr. Carol McIntosh, who was here earlier in the program. Thank them both for being our guests this morning. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Always a pleasure to have each and every one of you joining us. It's time for me to head on out and make way for GT, who is up next with the Mid-Morning Buzz. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing, when I link up with the sister station Hot 98 and Gary Mr. Smooth for Good Morning Grenada. Until then, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your wonderful Wednesday.